December 19th in Crimea, Ukrainian drones hit a relocating Russian S-300 convoy, dealing a major air defense setback.
December 19th, Crimea. 2 days after the strike that changed everything, Russia's Iskander missile depot in Crimea was left scorched and silent. Satellite imagery later showed the damage in blunt detail. Dozens of missiles gone, each valued at over $3 million. A blast zone burned across more than 17 hectares. Secondary fires rolling for hours. For Moscow, the message was simple. Crimea had just lost its most reliable strike weapon, and that is why the next fight stayed in Crimea. When an Iskander stockpile is crippled, the problem is not just fewer missiles. It is a protection gap. Crimea is the launch pad, the warehouse, and the routing hub. If it cannot safely store and launch, Russia has to rush air defenses to new positions to plug the holes, protect what is left, and restore deterrence on the peninsula. So the Kremlin pivoted to S-300 systems repurposed for ground attacks, ordered to relocate fast from hardened sites to improvised launch areas. Ukraine did not chase them randomly. It waited for the moment they were weakest, because an S-300 on the move is not an S-300 at full strength. During relocation, radars are often powered down. Launchers ride exposed. Convoys stretch for kilometers. One hit on the radar or command vehicle can blind the entire formation before a single missile is fired. 7 a.m. The convoy rolled out. Radar vehicles up front, command trucks behind. Launchers and resupply carriers strung out like routine logistics. To a passerby, it looked like a normal redeployment. To Ukrainian planners, it was a window. Recon drones were already overhead, silent at altitudes between 2,000 and 3,000 meters, tracking lane changes, spacing, and speed. Flight paths were preloaded. Drone teams were dispersed to reduce electronic warfare interference. Ukraine chose this moment for one reason. Movement creates mistakes, and mistakes create targets. Subscribe and keep your radar on, because the next minute this mobile convoy finds a permanent parking spot. December 19th, Crimea, 7:12 a.m. The moment the convoy committed to the route, Ukraine stopped watching and started shaping the outcome. This was the part most people never see. Not the strike, the setup, the small, boring decisions that make a large system fail. Ukrainian planners did not need to destroy every vehicle. They only needed to break the convoy's ability to function as a system. And that meant prioritizing one thing above everything else: the brain. In a moving S-300 column, the radar vehicle and command link are the center of gravity. Take them away, and the launchers become expensive tubes on wheels. No picture, no track, no cue, no coordinated response. So, the teams built a kill sequence, not a hit list. First, confirm formation, radar led, command close, launchers staggered, resupply trailing. If the spacing collapses, the strike becomes messy. If it holds, the strike becomes clean. Second, force the convoy to stay predictable. A moving column can evade if it senses danger early. So Ukrainian drones did not rush in immediately. They waited until the vehicles entered the stretch of road with the fewest turnoffs, where speed and spacing matter more than improvisation. Third, arrive low, arrive fast. The goal was not a dramatic explosion. The goal was time denial. Deny the convoy the seconds it needs to raise radar, coordinate escorts, or disperse. At 7:14 a.m., the first strike drones were already inside the approach corridor, skimming below the line where a moving unit can easily reorient. The recon feed stayed calm. No sudden lane changes. No hard braking. No breakaway vehicles. The convoy was still behaving like logistics, not like a unit under threat. That was the tell. Russia was moving to regain control of Crimea's air defense picture. Ukraine was about to erase that picture again, but this time on the road, in motion, before the system could even finish redeploying. And once the first drone committed to the lead vehicle, there was no reset button. December 19th, Crimea, 7:14 a.m. It does not start with chaos. It starts with a clean road and a convoy that still believes it is relocating. On the recon feed, the column is stretched and orderly, radar-led, command close, launchers staggered behind, resupply heavy in the rear. The spacing is disciplined, the pace is steady. The posture says routine. Then the first strike lands, a sharp flash at the head of the formation, bright enough to bleach the camera for a split second. The lead vehicle jolts, veers, and the convoy's rhythm breaks instantly. Brake lights flare down the line like a signal flare traveling vehicle to vehicle. Tires bite, metal groans. The front element begins to smoke. Not a dramatic fireball, but thick, urgent smoke that tells every crew member the same thing: the picture is gone. For a few seconds, the column tries to keep its shape anyway. That is what trained units do. They hold spacing. They keep moving. They wait for instructions. But the instructions do not come, because the second strike hits where the convoy cannot afford to be hit. The blast is louder, even through distance and wind, a hard concussion that kicks a wave through the middle of the formation. A command vehicle rocks, a panel collapses, and fire pushes outward with purpose, fed by what was supposed to keep the convoy alive: fuel, power, wiring, and the packed density of vehicles now forced too close together. That is when everything changes at once. Then the fire begins to spread like a chain reaction without needing more hits. Heat ripples distort the air above the road. Smoke thickens from gray to black, rolling low and heavy, flattening visibility until the convoy can barely see itself. Flames crawl along spilled fluid lines and lick up around tires. A tire pops, sharp and sudden, followed by the hiss of pressurized air and the dull thump of rubber fragments striking metal. Doors fly open, figures spill out and run for the ditch line, silhouettes cutting through smoke. Some stop and turn back as if waiting for an order that might still arrive. Others sprint away from vehicles that are becoming too hot to stand near. A launcher near the choke point begins to burn harder, not exploding into pieces, but turning into a sustained furnace. The flame front climbs, and the smoke column rises thicker, higher, visible for kilometers. The road beneath it shimmers, heat bending the world into a wavering mirage. At 7:18 a.m., the convoy is still physically there, but as a system, it is finished. It is pinned at the front by damage, sealed in the middle by compression, and boxed at the rear by smoke and fire. The relocation window Russia needed in Crimea is gone. The gap stays open, and in that open gap, Ukraine has room to strike again. December 19th, Crimea, 7:26 a.m. The fires are still burning when the meaning becomes clear. This was not a random hit. It was a designed failure. Ukraine did not need to destroy every vehicle. It only needed to break the system that made the convoy dangerous. That is the first lesson. Modern war punishes systems, not just hardware. An S-300 convoy in relocation is vulnerable by design. Radars are often powered down. Command links are reduced. Security posture is built for travel, not for surviving a sudden strike. For a few minutes, mobility looks like protection, but it actually removes the convoy's most lethal advantage: awareness. And once the lead element is disrupted, the rest is physics. Brake lights compress the column. Heavy vehicles lose maneuver space. The road becomes a funnel. Launchers get boxed in behind support trucks. Burning wreckage turns lanes into walls. The formation stops acting like a unit and starts acting like traffic. That is the second lesson. For Russia, the loss is not only what burned on that road, it is the redeployment window. Crimea needed those S-300 units to plug protection gaps after the Iskander depot strike. Instead, the gaps stay open. Fewer radars and fewer launchers in position means fewer safe routes for movement and fewer protected zones for staging. Even if replacements exist, they now have to relocate under the shadow of the same problem. If Ukraine can catch a convoy in motion once, it can do it again. That smoke is not just aftermath, it is deterrence in reverse. December 19th, Crimea, 7:34 a.m. The road is still hot when the final lesson settles in. Russia tried to patch a protection gap in Crimea. It moved an S-300 convoy to regain control of the air defense picture after the Iskander depot strike. On paper, it was a reset. In reality, it was a window. Ukraine did not win by matching firepower. It won by matching timing. This is what drone warfare does to expensive doctrine. It turns relocation into exposure. It turns mobility into a moment where the system cannot see, cannot coordinate, and cannot recover fast enough to matter. A convoy is only strong when it can act as one. The second it fragments, every vehicle becomes a target shaped by road geometry and panic. The fires on that corridor are more than damage. They are a message to every unit that still believes it can simply move and be safe. The old logic said repositioning buys time. The new logic says repositioning creates the strike window. And the cost is not only equipment, it is hesitation. It is crews thinking twice before they relocate. It is commanders delaying movement while gaps remain open, because Crimea does not forgive delays. It is a routing hub, a launch pad, a storage zone. When coverage breaks, the consequences ripple outward fast. So the question now is not what burned on that road. The question is what this changes next. Will Russia keep pushing systems forward into motion, knowing motion is the trap? Or will it pull back and accept wider gaps, giving Ukraine more room to strike deeper? Either way, the battlefield has already rewritten the rules. Subscribe if you want the next breakdown before the next convoy learns the same lesson the hard way.